Shabbat Shalom. I am a proud Reform Jew. One aspect I particularly love about Reform Judaism is its ability to make Judaism relevant to today's time. By changing and adapting our ancient laws and traditions to better apply to the times of today, we continually find ways to make Judaism come alive in the 21st century. However, our willingness to change and set aside laws that no longer make sense for our world has earned us critics. There are those who accuse Reform Judaism of ignoring or discarding thousands of years of tradition. Their claim is that the real Judaism is the one that follows all of Halakha, the Jewish laws and traditions of our grandparents. Real Judaism doesn't include our beautiful musicians on Shabbat, women rabbis, or driving or riding to services. But the truth is, being willing to adapt our Judaism to the needs of today is actually following in the holy footsteps of our biblical and Talmudic ancestors. This week's Torah portion reminds us that the real Judaism has a long history of adapting to the times of the day. In fact, God has even been known to change God's own mind. This week, we see such an instance when we learn about the daughters of Zelophehad. They are 5 unmarried daughters of a man named Zelophehad. In the first sign that their story may be important, the Torah specifically names each of them: Mala, Noah, Hogla, Milcha, and Tirzah. According to the rules of inheritance, when a man died, his property passed to his sons, and if there were no sons, to his brothers, leaving the women out altogether. Sure enough, Zelophehad died, leaving only 5 daughters. But the daughters are not content to let their father or their own name disappear. With great chutzpah that Jewish women are known to have, they take their complaint to Moses, to Eleazar the high priest, the chieftains, and even the whole community. They argue, "Our father died in the wilderness. Let not our father's name be lost to his clan just because he had no son. Give us a holding among our father's kinsmen." What's so amazing about this story is not only do they have the chutzpah to stand up before the entire community, but that they are listened to. Moses brings their question to God, and God agrees with the women, saying the plea of Zelophehad's daughters are just. You should give them the hereditary holding among their father's kinsmen, transfer their father's share to them. Further, speak to the Israelite people as follows: if a householder dies without leaving a son, you shall transfer his property to his daughter. Not only does God grant their immediate request, but in having been shown the unfairness of the ruling, God changes the rules going forward. For me, this is the essence of Reform Judaism, creating and recreating our religion to stay relevant. Too often, Judaism is portrayed as an ancient religion with an ancient, unchanging set of rules. In this narrative, we can choose to follow the rules or not, but the laws themselves are unchangeable. But this is not the Judaism of our Bible or of our Talmud. In reality, our earliest text shows a religion that was flexible and able to adapt to the times at hand. In the story above, we see an example of God changing God's rules when an injustice is pointed out. As we move into Talmudic times, we continue to see rabbis and scholars making changes to fit the realities that are on the ground. In fact, the ability to change our rules is what allowed Judaism to continue after the Second Temple was destroyed. Why? Because many of our laws were specific to the temple standing and all of us living in Israel. When that was no longer our reality, Judaism might have lost relevance, except for the Talmudic rabbis feeling empowered to reinvent it. The Talmudic rabbis were tasked with creating no less than a whole new way of being Jewish, one that allowed us to live in the diaspora and to not offer sacrifices in the temple in Jerusalem. I, for one, am glad for the changes. Not sure I would have pursued religious leadership if it meant killing and burning animals on an altar. And it's not only the sacrificial laws that the Talmudic rabbis felt empowered to change. When the realities of the day made following Jewish law problematic, rather than let Judaism become a relic, our ancient rabbis modified our laws. One famous example is Rabbi Hillel. He issued a ruling that allowed debts to be carried into the sabbatical year. This stemmed from a real-life issue that his people were facing. The law stipulated that debts had to be canceled in the 7th sabbatical year. This caused a problem as lenders were loath to lend money in the year or two leading up to the sabbatical. This made life very difficult for those who needed the loans to survive. So what did Rabbi Hillel do? He issued a ruling that allowed both parties to a loan to declare at the initiation of the loan that the rules of the sabbatical would not apply to this specific loan. This was a new rule. It was a break with tradition. But Rabbi Hillel saw that the need was great, and he found a way to keep Judaism relevant. There are many examples of these kinds of rulings in the Talmud and even throughout medieval times. So when did we stop allowing ourselves to make adjustments and changes to keep Judaism relevant? In the early 19th century, an Orthodox rabbi known as Chatam Sofer decided that we had moved too far away from the giving of Torah and the receiving of Talmud to truly understand God's will. Thus, we could no longer reinterpret the laws to apply to the times of today. We were stuck with the rules that we had. Therefore, many of the laws and the customs that we have seem to be stuck in the 19th century, because that's the last time we felt empowered to change them. The beauty of Reform Judaism is that we believe we are empowered to carry on the holy tradition of our Talmudic predecessors. Just as Rabbi Hillel was able to modify the sabbatical laws of lending when he saw that they were no longer working for the society he lived in, so too, Reform Judaism believes that we can and should continually be thinking about how to make our Judaism relevant and alive for each generation. Rather than seeing this as an abdication of our faith, we should see it as a renewal of faith. Each generation is tasked with the holy obligation to make Judaism relevant, present, and fresh in our lives. Doing so does not make us any less Jewish than those who choose to practice differently. In fact, I would argue that it is just this diversity and creativity that has allowed Judaism to continue despite our exiles and our migrations. So whether it's adding an orange to our Seder plate, allowing people of all genders to become rabbis, or even allowing the use of technology when we cannot gather safely together, we are continuing the holy work of our biblical and Talmudic ancestors by finding ways to keep real Judaism alive in each generation. Shabbat Shalom.